In our yesterday session, we started understanding about Spring Boot profiles. So, what is a profile? So, what is the purpose of taking Spring Boot profile, or why Spring Boot introduced this concept called as profiles, and what scenarios we are using, especially the main agenda behind Spring Boot profiles we understood yesterday. So, it's all about generally whenever we are implementing or developing a software application in any company, wherever you go, any organization, any software company, any technology project, whatever application it is, we will have always different levels of environments. So, okay, so the developer point of view will have some kind of environment created by we will, okay, so we will have some environment, and QA level, nothing but UAT team. For them, we will have one kind of environment, one round, same. So it's a replica only, but only thing is just different servers. That's what I can say. Similarly, production point of view also will have some secured production servers and everything is. So that means when developers are working on the dev environment, so we will have separate dev database details, dev email configurations, dev properties. So just like testing purpose or whatever we are using configuration data, that is different from the real data. So that's why developer point of view, developer you can use that. Similarly, QA team, testing team point of view also will have separate environment for them. We will, okay, we will arrange a separate environment where they will have same database. I mean, database is deployed on some other server, but with same table structure, sequences or whatever it is, everything is same. And then code connected to that respective databases. Similarly, if you have any specific email functionalities related to email information, not only email, like that one environment to another environment. Simple point of view is whenever we have multiple environments in our application development, so whenever the data is changing from one environment to another environment, the configuration data like email configurations, database configurations, some other data, so on so data, like that. Whenever one environment to another environment, data is different. Then to deal with that problem, we Spring Boot provided a concept called as profiles concept. So that by using profiles, what we are doing is for each and every environment wise, we are segregating the configuration data and we are injecting configuration data. We are injecting configuration data environment specific. But how we are injecting, how we are achieving is all about by using Spring Boot profiles. So here, how to use the Spring Boot profiles concept is based on the environment, which environment wise, okay, whatever the data you created based on the environment, right? So for that, whenever you started our application, whenever we started our Spring Boot application, we have to give that active profile name. So here, when it comes to the properties file, we have to create always like this: application hyphen dev dot properties, application hyphen prod dot properties, application hyphen UAT dot properties, like that. Okay. So this is what about profiles: dev hyphen dev prod UAT. This will be called as profiles. And what profile data it has to pick up, that name we will give here it is. So that profile information we will give. So that then what it is doing is it is just picking that respective data from that respective. Okay. So whenever you started our Spring Boot application, it is always looking information into UAT profile, nothing but application hyphen UAT dot properties, and it will try to load this database details, this contact dot email. So that means in our code level, wherever this property is used, contact dot email, so there this value will be replaced. If you started with prod, then this value will be replaced when you started your application. So that is how we are segregating the configuration data specific to environment, and we are maintaining the specific to environment. So how to start? What is the important thing what we have to remember is to set a profile active, we have to remember this property and we have to set it. So let's do one thing. Now if I am starting, what it will do, it will pick up from the UAT profile. So you can see which profile it is picking always at the line number 1 itself. When you started your application, so here we can observe, so it is picking from which profile? UAT profile. So that means what error it is saying? DB details are missing or URL is wrong. Why? If you go to the UAT profile first. You given the DB details? No, we are not given. We are not given the DB details. This is a different. What actually DB detail database point of view? What is the profile? What is the property spring dot data source dot URL? But this is a different. So that means in UAT not presented. Now I told you one more thing. Whenever we started any profile, application dot properties file is the default properties file. So it is always coming into the picture. It is a common across all the profiles. So now it will verify when it is verifying in the specific to profile not located that property DB properties, then it came to default file. Even here also it's not located. That's why you got this error. So that means where you have to maintain this information is in the UAT point of view or maybe in the application.properties point of view. The property what you are keeping. So I'll ask one use case. Let's take use cases now. So this is what we have to understand right now. Okay, so what I said yesterday use case is configuration data is specific to environment. That's okay. Configuration data is same across all environment. Then what I have to do, guys? So configuration data is same across all environments means that property value, that property and its value stored inside. I mean, we have to define in which file? Application dot properties. Why? If I am keeping a property in application dot properties, it is a common for all the environments. If there is a change in that value, then you have to specify that property into specific to that environment file. But in this case, I want to maintain context path same in all environments. So that means I no need to maintain this property again in the dev level. Okay, copy, dev prod level again same property and UAT level same property. Not required. So in every environment, this value is common, right? So that's why you don't need to mention here. Instead of you're mentioning in each and every profile, you can simply mention in the common one called as application.properties. So it will pick up from there. Similarly, port number also common across all the things. Now email is changing from one environment to another environment. Value. Property is same, value is changing. If it is local, local. If it is dev, dev. If it is prod, something like contact. If it is something like UAT, Dilip IT. So value is changing from environment to environment. Then this you have to store this contact that email in this case specific to environment wise. So then specific to environment wise, you have to keep in the application hyphen dev dot properties level as well as similarly other profiles also UAT prod like that wherever the value is changing frequently for this property that you have to keep in the specific to environment wise. So that is it. Now assume one more use case I'll ask you in this case. If a property existed in both default and profile config file with same or different value whatever it is. So that is what is the point here, use case 3 here it is. If a property located in the same property you given in the default nothing but application.properties and as well as something like profile specific config file also, then which okay then while when you started Spring Boot application, which property it will consider? Is it considering from the profile specific or default one? Yeah, profile specific. So in this case, so when you started our Spring Boot application, Spring Boot will choose profile specific. Profile specific. So first priority given to the always profile specific. If it is not presented, then it will go to the default. Nothing but application. Even if it is not presented, then you will get an exception. Like property is missing, something like that. But order will go like this. So that is what use cases. Okay, this is all we saw yesterday from the properties file. Let me do one thing. I'll copy the DB details also. Okay, assume all environments are using same database. Just assumption, but not. Okay, DB details I just copied here. Now our application will start with UAT profile also. Okay, so now our application will start because we given DB details in the common one, so it will pick up from the common. Earlier we got error, right? Now it will pick up from there. And even UAT level also you given this something like user defined properties or whatever it is. Okay, now my next question here it is continuation to this only. Okay, if you see this diagram yesterday what I said, the code will be available in the GitHub level and we'll make a build and we'll create it, we'll deploy it into environments. But whenever you made a build, what will happen? Maybe you will create a jar or war file. Okay, assume it's a jar file if it is Spring Boot point of view, executable jar file. But the point here it is, understand the point very clearly. If I committed this property with UAT profile, so whenever I deployed, that means assume this property value I given as a UAT. In this jar file also this property value available as UAT. Now it's a common single source code. When I am deploying into dev, then it is picking UAT profile information. But ideally it should not, right? It has to pick only dev property files. So that means how I am going to make sure this one property value when I am deploying into dev environment level, it has to update it as dev. If I am deploying into UAT level, it has to update into UAT. If I am deploying into production level, here the value should come as a prod. So that means how should I make this property dynamically configured based on the where I am deploying? I have to change this value. So that's why. So how do we do that? So that means what people will do is this profile maybe you can keep here also. Okay, sometimes if you want to maybe assume you have some common properties across all the environments also. You, for example, I'll give like this up file application dot application hyphen something like some common dot properties. Okay, so common means my intention is along with the default maybe some properties I have. So that if I given common here, what it will do means whenever I deployed, it will pick up that common properties from all the common properties from this file for all the environments. Why? The reason is why I am saying here like all the environments. Yeah, why I am saying like all the environments here it is. You given active profile as common. So if I started my Spring Boot application, it will pick up always data from the common, right? It will pick up always data from the common. Even if I started with the dev profile also, what it will do? It will pick up data from the common only. Sorry, when I started, it will come to Spring Boot, yeah, Spring application point of view, it will come here. And internally you given common, so it will load that common. Only common perspective it will load. Okay, but my intention is this common data should be loaded in dev. Okay, it's not the case. I would like to discuss. I am just confusing you. So let's do one thing. Let's remove it. I don't want to involve confusion. Okay, so now my point is very clear. Like I given earlier, if I given UAT and I pushed this code to the GitHub, it is UAT. But when I'm deploying into dev, how it will update it as dev? Because it has to pick dev database details. If I'm deploying into prod, how this value should be updated as prod? It's difficult, right? It is available in the jar file. You can't change manually. If it is a jar file, how will you change? You don't have source code with you. But you committed hot with UAT. Then how it will pick up dynamically dev point of view, dev prod point of view, prod. So that's why what we will do is actually this profile we will not set in real-time applications, we will not set here. Then where we will set is we will pass this value via environment variables. Via environment variables. So you know how to set the environment variables in the core Java, right? So now see, generally what people will do is the DevOps team or whatever it is, even Java team, whoever it is, when we have dev UAT set all these profiles, right? So we will set environment profiles like this one. If it is dev level, there we will pass dev. If it is sit, okay. So if it is dev, if it is sit, and UAT point of view UAT, like prod point of view prod. So this value, this property value, we will pass via environment variable. I mean environment variable. So I said, right, everywhere we will make different environments. So in that environment systems level, servers level, what we will do is we will set some environment variables like this. If it is dev environment, then what we will do is, yeah, here. So we will set this property from outside externally, only this property taking as dev. So environment variables point of view. The moment I pass up this value as environment variable, where it will go, guys? In this main arguments. In this arguments level. That is what command line arguments, right? I mean, sorry, not environment variable, command line argument. So it is what command line argument, right? So that means the moment I set this as a command line argument, so it has a command line argument. So in core Java point of view, where this value will come, this value will go to spring.fl and all, it will take here. But internally, it will take any active profile given or not like that. They will verify and they will pick up data from that profile. So that means in real-time applications, you will not hard code here. If you are hard coding here, then how will you make dynamically like UAT point of view, UAT data, prod point of view, prod data? How will you make sure that? It's very difficult, right? So that's why we will not configure this value and we will configure that value via command line arguments. Okay. So now same point of view, I'll configure this command line argument in the UAT environment also. So in the UAT environment also. Similarly, we will configure this one also in the prod level. So now whenever you deployed your application on the prod, so what will happen here it will this time this property you are not given an application or properties. It's not located there. You given as a command line argument. When you started Spring Boot application, start like that you are starting and you are giving this value as a command line argument. That means you are telling like start our Spring Boot application with this profile. Externally you are passing this value. Now in local computer, is it possible to do means? Yes, we can do that. Let's say here go to the main Spring Boot application file. See here I disabled, guys. That means assume like deleted. Now let me start my application one more time. What will happen? See here, run as Java application. So it started, could not resolve placeholder called as data source.url. Okay. So I'll do one thing. This is local point of view I'll keep because this time I did not given any profile. If you observe here, the profile is default, nothing but we are not given anything. Because this time what I did, I disabled here. I'm removing from here. Okay, so okay, let me start our application once again. So it's a default profile. As of now, we are not given anything. So everything picked up from the local host. What we taken yesterday host colon double nine API slash test. Yeah, it is picking local one, right? So now I want to deploy my application on the prod environment, okay, or UAT environment. What I have to do? So I should not give here active profile equal to UAT. If I given UAT, then what will happen tomorrow when you are doing the build? Always it is UAT only. Even though you are deploying on the prod, it will pick up only UAT profile details. Why you fixed this value as a hard coded, but I should not do that. I have to pass this value externally when I'm starting this Spring Boot application. I should inform to the Spring Boot application, hey Spring Boot application, please take this profile. Like that, I have to pass this value externally. For that, generally what in real-time applications, what we will do is, we will not configure here. We will not hard code in the application or property. Okay, what we will do is, go to this configure run as run configurations. So here arguments, if you go to the arguments, here I'm giving spring.profiles.active equal to, okay, same property will not change. I'll do one thing. So go to file, main application file, and run as run configurations. So arguments, if I'm giving value here as UAT and apply and run. Give me a second. This is all one-time configuration. When we are working in the real-time applications, they will do one time in the environments level, guys. It's not like every time you will set. It's just like that. In the environment variables, they will set in the server level. It will pick up from there. But in local computer, I'll show you that run as it is picking. No, still it is default only. So here we can see whether it is picking or not. But how do I do that? Still default only, but I have to make it as UAT. Run as run configurations. Something we have to give, man. -d. Yeah, it's picking now. But what place exactly I'll give you? We'll remove one place and see, if you see here now it is picking. It's picking what? UAT profile. So that means in every environment level, whatever we hard coded, right? Now the moment you deployed your applications, this jar file and the dev environment, it will pick up this value from there. So that it will load all the dev details and it will connect it to the dev environment point of view. Now, whenever you deployed jar file and the UAT, this value you are supplying externally, right? So that it will pick up UAT configuration. When you are deploying same jar on the prod, so you told like externally take prod information only, so that internally whatever the prod file level the information is available, that it will pick up. Same thing I'm replicating in the local system now. I'll do one thing. I don't know which one has to be deleted. Program outputs. Stop it, otherwise you'll get the port already existed. So it's one-time configuration so that it will pick up every time same thing. Run. Let's see. Yeah, it is picking. So that means just give here where you have to give is VM arguments. So in the VM arguments level, just note down. So in the VM arguments level, -d we have to give. So like that. Yeah. So just where we can configure is configure run configure and then VM arguments like that. You can give this value. So that now see it's very simple now. Now in my main application.properties file, I did not give in any profile. I did not give in any profile. But what I am doing from the environment specific point of view, whenever we made our environments are ready, I given externally like this. So whenever I'm just taking this jar file and I'm starting on this, I'm deploying on this dev environment. I mean, in this environment, what it will do is it will check what is the environment variable you set for the active profile dev. So then it will start go, it will go to the dev profile and it will load this information. Then it will load this information from there. So see here now it is loading from the UAT. If I want to start again from the dev UAT, so dev properties, sorry, not properties, run configuration and go to VM arguments. So here you give the profile name dev. So it will give port number, I think. Port already existed. That's why stop it because we're already started it, right? Now let's start. Yeah, you can start from here also. Yeah, so now see here what profile it is picking. So see, please observe always here, guys. Is it picking right profile or not? So dev profile. So like that, we will do in the real time. I mean, in the real time application point of view, that is how people will do that. So we'll configure that property externally so that we will not hard code in the project level as a UAT or dev. Because if you are hard coded, it will pick up always as a constant value. As a permanent value, it will pick up only UAT. So that's why nowhere in real time applications, even though you are using profiles concept, we will not configure inside the code level. We will configure at every environment level. We will configure externally this environment variable so that it will pick up from there like that. So this is how things will happen in the configuration and management and how to make sure your Spring Boot application is running specific to a profile or how your Spring Boot application, okay, specific to an environment, how we are going to deploy in the real-time applications point of view. I explained all the use cases. Okay, so now the next continuation to this only. So far, what we discussed is configuration data. Configuration data. With respect to profiles point of view, what we discussed, configuration data is nothing but properties and values. Right? When environment wise, what is specific and all. So this is 90%. This is the only use cases people will use, guys. But whatever I'm explaining right now is very less scenarios people will go. Very, very less scenarios. Maybe 5%, less than 5%. But anyway, I'll just give you the awareness. Let's try to understand. Now, I'll give you a requirement like this. Then based on that, you can understand easily what it is. Assume I have a bean object. I have a bean object and that bean, I mean, I want to create a bean object, create a bean object, create a bean object specific to an environment, specific to an environment, specific to an environment point of view. specific to an environment point of. So what is my point here? It is generally, in general, what will happen when you return a Java class? Okay, you return at the rate bean method or maybe at the rate class, sorry, component, right? So generally what will happen whenever you given at the rate bean or component, irrespective of profiles, in your container level, a bean object will be created. Whatever profile it is, it will be created. But now what I'm trying to say here it is, okay, whenever okay, if I'm running on the dev profile, if I'm running on the dev profile, so whenever I return multiple, okay, here in this case, at the rate bean, if I return only for dev environment, bean object has to be created. That means if I given UAT, if I'm running my profile on the UAT profile of my Spring Boot application, then bean object should not be created. Should not be created. That is one use case. Then UAT and prod level, the bean object should not be created. Only dev level, that bean object has to be created. And prod level should not be created. That is one use case. Second use case is I want to achieve something like bean object has to be created, should be created. Different bean objects should be created. I'll give like this. Different bean objects should be created for different environments, different profiles. So that means assume if I have a object called as something like email config or whatever it is, some class called as email config. So I have a class called as email config. So class is something like email related, whatever it is. Now my intention here it is what I'm trying to say is if I started my application on the dev profile, then bean object has to be created. Bean object has to be created. But it should have internally, when I'm running on the dev profile, a bean object should create with respect to only dev profile point of view, whatever the logic I written, that logic has to be executed. Now similarly, if I started on the UAT, a separate bean object should be created. A separate bean object will be created. That means I'm not making generic. In this case, what happened, guys? First scenario in general, if you started dev, if you started UAT, if you started prod, if you started local, default, whatever it is, whenever it is, by as a default bean object will be created as of now. Whatever we created as of now, by default, every bean object will be created, whether it is a component class or bean method, whatever it is. But that is common. Now, this is the use case one I said, and this is the use case two I'm saying. First use case point of view, what I'm saying, that bean object should be created only in the dev or any specific point of view. If I given dev, only dev level created. If you given UAT, but when I started my application on the other profiles, that bean object should not be created. That is one kind of requirement. Second requirement is what I'm saying is bean object has to be created for every environment specifically, a separate bean object. Okay, like that. So if I given prod, a separate logic is there. Prod and only in the prod point of view, a separate bean object has to be created. Separate bean object has to be created. So this is what I want to achieve. So that means this time the profiles concept moving to the code level. Where guys, code and bean objects level. So that means you can manage the, what is the point I would like to say here it is, by using Spring Boot profiles, it's not about your managing the configuration data, you can manage the bean object also. So that means by using Spring Boot profiles, by using the Spring Boot profiles, by using the profiles, we can manage or configure bean objects creation specific to to bean object creation specific to profiles also. Specific to profile. Sorry, by using the profiles, we can manage or configure bean objects creation specific to a profile. Yeah, specific to a profile or nothing but based on indirectly environment point of view. We cannot use environment word, but reason behind profiles is environment only. So based on a profile also we can manage the bean object creation. Let's see here now. Once you take in the example, you will feel very easy. Okay, what I am doing is I am writing a component class. Okay, leave it. Okay, so this is a component class, right? So what I will do, I'll write a constructor so that you will come to know in every profile it is starting or not. I will show you. In general, it will start public bean object created. So why it's a component class. Okay. So now let's start my application. In which profile I am starting, whatever profile is, let's see first of all this line is getting or not. That means this bean object got created or not. So you started this time in which profile? Dev, right? So in the dev level, the bean object created or not, let's see here. What is this? It's created. So that means right now, my component class bean object created with respect to dev profile. True. Now if I'm giving UAT, what will happen? So go to here. Okay, you can local testing point of view, you can enable this property also, guys. Okay, you can enable this one also. I'll do one thing, I'll remove from there because every time coming here and configuring is difficult. Okay, so save it and run it. Now see, it will pick up which profile? Default profile. So it is picking default profile. So that means in the default also a bean object created or not. Let's see here now. Yes, created. Now if I given UAT also, if I given UAT profile, also my bean object will be created. So that means what's happening by default, irrespective of profile what you are running, that bean object getting created. That bean object is getting created. So that means this is the first use case I said. Okay, it's a default one. It's a default behavior irrespective of profile, your bean object will be created. So let me show you. See, even UAT point of view also, if you see here, what is the profile? UAT profile. So that means UAT point of view also your bean object will get created. So that means every environment it will create, every profile point of view. So use case one, this is the default one. Now what is the case I said use case? Only dev level this has to be created, guys. Only this bean object should be created for dev profile. So that means the moment if I am started on the UAT profile or local profile or default profile, it should not be created, the bean object. I am restricting this bean object creation for the purpose of only dev profile. Some reason, whatever it is. Some reason I want to implement few functionalities only the dev environment. In remaining environments level, that component, I mean that bean object should be ignored. It should not be created first of all. So how to do that? That is what the first use case we discussed. So simple, very simple. Now you have to utilize the profile annotation. So just go to that class, which class you are planning to, okay, make sure as part of the one environment point of view, what is the profile you are making? It has to be done with only dev profile. It has to be done only with the dev profile. See, if it is value string, that means you can give more than one also, guys. So assume your requirement is demanding like only dev and UAT level it has to create, not prod. Then you can give value equal to, as array point of view, you can give the values dev comma UAT. So if I given dev comma UAT, this bean object will be created only for the dev and UAT profiles, not for the prod. If I given only prod, it will create only for the prod when you are running your application on the prod environment. Now see, I given dev profile, right? But I am running on which profile right now? UAT profile. The mainly application is running on the UAT profile. You have to observe here. This will tell you your application running on which profile. Which profile it is running? UAT. Go and verify the bean object got created or not. See, nowhere it is created. The bean object not created. So that means what Spring Boot container doing in this case is, the moment you are added profile annotation at component class level, it will verify what is the profile you given and what is the active profile you set. So active profile what we given? Active profile we given as UAT. But in the component level what we given? Dev. So that means then container understanding like, okay, let me ignore this Java class. It's not creating the object, it's ignoring this object creation process. It is ignoring the object creation process. Okay, now let me start my application in the dev profile. So I'm giving dev now. Now let's start our application again. Yeah, if you see here, we started our application in the dev profile, right? Let's go and see if the bean object got created or not. Yes, this time bean object is created. So what happened earlier? No bean got created. So the moment you given active profile equal to dev, bean object got created. So that means by using profiles, we can manage the bean object creation specific to environment wise or whatever it is. By using profiles, we can manage the bean object creations based on a profile point of view also. So now if I given prod also, bean object will not create. If I given, if I disable means what, it will take default profile, right? By default. So default case also it will not pick up. Okay, let me try that. So stop the server first. You restart from here. So this time what it is taking? Default profile. If you see here, default profile. In the default profile point of view, what will happen? See here, no bean object created. So other than dev, not in that any other profile point of view, the bean object is not created. So it is a default, it is a prod, it is a whatever it is, other than dev, it will not create it. So assume your requirement is remaining a this bean object has to be created for dev and UAT or dev and default. Then you can give here the word whatever it is like this. Now let's start our application again. Yeah, it's starting again. See, now this time it got created. Why? You are controlled this bean object creation for dev and UAT. Sorry, dev and default. That's why it got created. So similarly, bean methods also, if you written any bean methods also, you have to use the profile annotation. Profile annotation. So what is the second use case I said? Email configuration or whatever it is. Something I want to make sure specific to environment, specific bean object has to be created. So what I can do in such case, let me write some class. Something just let me write email config object created by default. So here I'm giving component. And here I'm giving @profile, and I'm giving value also. So it has to create only for the default profile point of view. Then component bean object will be created when you started the default. But if I'm taking configuration class spring bean configuration, okay, so just it's a configuration class. So here I'm writing total 3 bean methods. One for dev, like okay, public email config, dev email config, sort of. Okay, so see here. Now if I keeping here @bean, what will happen? For every profile it will create by default. Configuration class will be scanned, and for every profile this will be created. So whether true or see, right or wrong, see here. What is the active profile we given? Default, right? So save all changes. Let me do one thing. Stop it. Restart it. See, now total 2 bean objects will be created. We know that story. We are not done anything. So this time, what? Total 2 bean objects got created. Email config created, email config created. So total bean. 2 why? 1 is because you given which profile? Default profile. Default point of view, what I mentioned, email config, like, yeah. Default point of view, go with component object, as well as bean level. If I am not mentioned anything, okay, it will consider for all when you are not mentioned for all profiles. But if I mentioned again profile point of view, here also I given only dev. I given only dev. Now tell how many objects will be created. Only one email config, because one only created. One only created. Why? Because you are running default profile now. This time it's running again on default. So that means this bean object not executed, this bean method not executed by container. Why? The moment it came, you given profile, then it is understanding, okay, what profile this guy is running. This guy running directly on the default. So it's a dev. Okay, let's ignore it. Like that, specific to profile point of view, also bean methods we can define. So dev, UAT, whatever it is. Okay, so if I'm giving again UAT, prod, okay, just method names should be different. UAT, prod. Okay, now these 3 bean objects will be created means no. Why? By default, we are running on the default profile. Let's see. Only component point of view, bean object will be created. If you see here, only component point of view, one bean object got created. No bean object, no bean method is executed. Why? You given profile specific. Now if I am running on the active profile again, so like I given dev. I given dev means this time what will happen, guys? A bean object will be created based on the component point of view. No, why? You given default. Only default point of view component bean object will be created. This core Java knowledge, core module knowledge. But when it comes to the configuration method, Here you given dev profile. That means this bean method will be executed, and whatever the bean object got created, it will be maintained by the container. When it comes to here, it will check UAT not matching. Similarly, below prod one also not matching. So this bean object will not be executed. Below one will not be executed. Only this one will be executed. If you see here, dev email config getting ready, and as well as email object got created. So that means only dev profile. Why you given only dev? We given only dev. If you given UAT, then this will not be created. Only this one will be created. That is what my use case, second use case. Specific to environment, specific to profile point of view, a bean object should be created. Yes, we can do that. Simply means create, write multiple bean methods specific to your environment logic wise, I mean your point of view, and define the profile. So whatever the current profile you are running, if it is matching, then only bean object execution will start by the Spring container internally. Spring container is verifying profile, active profile is matching with the given profile or not. If it is not matching, no execution, executed. That means bean object created and maintained in the container level. Similarly, component point of view also what it is doing. If you are giving default, only default level it will be created. If I remove this, then how many bean objects will be created this time? One email config or two? This time, total two will be created. Why? The moment it came to here, container, you are not specified any profile. That's why what it will feel is, okay, let's create object based on the component, bean object one. Similarly, when it went to the bean configuration method, you given dev profile, right? So that means already one bean method is there based on the dev. So one more bean object will be created. Total two are created. There is no restriction this time. That means all. If you are not mentioned at the rate profile means it's for all profiles, default and whatever you given. If you mention profile and you given a specific profile name, that will work only for that profile. Work means the bean object will be created only for that profile. So now go and see how many bean objects created now. So total two created. One is default, I mean that component level you removed that profile, that's why, and one is only specific to dev environment point of view. So if you given UAT, this time dev object will not be created, only UAT object will be created. See, only UAT object is created now. So this is how we can manipulate the, I mean we can manage the bean object creation process specific to environment wise, specific to profile wise, guys. See, environment is nothing but profile. Profile is nothing but environment point of view, you can think. But yeah, by using profiles, we can manage the bean object creation process with respect to a specific profile also. So in interviews, they'll ask you, don't think like these are all things they will not ask. They will ask simply like, I want to make sure a bean object got created. Okay, I have a class and I want to make sure that class object getting created for every, I mean, I want to create the class object such a way like specific to an environment. What I have to do. See, they will not give hint like profiles also. In a generic way, they will ask, I have a class called as ABC. I have a class called as ABC class, and I want to make sure, and I have some environments. Okay, something like take like dev, CTUAT, production, four environments. And I want to make sure for all four environments, I have different configuration of data. Four environments wise, I have data. And I want to make sure every environment wise, I have to create a specific bean object. What I have to do. If I started so and so environment, then it has to pick up only, I mean, it has to create only that bean object. Only that specific bean object. What I have to do. Then you have to tell all this story. Then we have to utilize the profiles. So take that environments as profiles. Then whatever the bean methods you are writing, if you don't have profiles, all four bean objects will be created. All four bean objects will be created. But if you given at the rate profile on each and every bean level based on your environment point of view, then whenever you are started with the dev profile, only dev one will be executed, rest of the will be ignored. That means bean object will not be created, ignored. So like that, here the profiles is helping us like that. You have to explain the story. Similarly, they will ask same thing also. I have configuration data specific to different environments. Then what I have to do? Then you have to tell them like go with specific files creation process application dot properties is the default one. If you are not given any uh, profile, it will run and it will act as a common properties file also. Dev dot properties. If it is configuration data, then you have to tell like you have to create four specific profile files application hyphen dev application hyphen sit and keep the properties which are having different values across the environments, keep those properties in individual properties file. The property value which is common across all the environments, you have to keep inside the application.properties. For example, I decided server.port is always same. Then you can keep that double line here. So that whether you started in the dev profile, UAT profile, whatever profile is, it will start always on the double line port. It's a common. So that means the moment you started dev, it will take default application.properties file also. So dev plus default. But first priority given to the dev, second priority given to the default properties file. So that means if a property existed in the dev, priority given to the dev one only. You should not say, okay, you can maintain. See, for example, if I given server.port here also, server.port equal to 8888, you will not get any error. You should not say like we will get the error. If you maintain same property in interview, they will ask same thing. If you are a fresher, I will maintain same property with different values in two properties file. One in the common, one in the dev profile specific. What will happen? You should not say like you will get error. They will ask sometimes. Is it going to override or is it going to give some error like duplicate error? So no, it will not give any error. Simply what it will do is it will give first priority. Okay, it will verify. Okay, it is located here as well as here. First priority is dev means in the current profile what you run dev you given, right? So that's why it will pick up 8888. If this property is not existed in this case, then it will go here. Second priority point of view. Then it will give 99. Maybe you are not given here also. Then there is nothing, right? Then you will get an error like property not existed, property not found, something like that. You will get the error. But first priority given to the dev only. But if you maintain both the places, same property name, you will not get any exception. Okay, that is how you have to understand the profiles concept. So it's better to, so simple point of view, specific to environment point of view, whatever the data is changing, keep in the profiles property file. If it is common across all the properties, all the environments, keep in the application.properties like that. Okay, for example, I'll take one scenario, one more scenario. Four profiles I have, four environments. Now, out of four profiles, four environment point of view, okay, three environment point of view, data key value is common, guys. One key, I'm talking about only one key and value point of view. It's the same value. But something like fourth profile point of view, value is different. Then what is your approach? Okay, assume like it is a prod. What we can do in this case? So that means what I have to do. So for example, the key also I'll give like this. Name equal to something like whatever it is. Dilip. For three environments, it is Dilip. But the fourth environment point of view, name equal to something like Java, whatever it is. Then what you will do in this case? How will you configure your property file? So can I keep this name.delete in the application.properties? Can we keep in the application.properties means yes. So if I'm keeping in the application.properties, what will happen? It is automatically replicated into all three environments. You don't need to add again into three environments. You are added in the common so that for those three environments, this value will become common. It will pick up. Now, if you given name equal to Java in the application dot application hyphen prod dot java. Okay, this value, what will happen? So priority given to the name. Whenever it found a name in the prod environment level, it will pick up Java only. So that means only add this value again into here. So, but this name.delete you can directly add into application.properties. No need to add here. Why? It is common. If tomorrow, if you remove from the production.java also, what will happen? You will not get any error. Why? It's available in the common. Only thing is it will take the value as Dilip. So this kind of understanding manipulation, please practice. I'm not saying like in the theory point of view, you have to remember, just practice all these use cases. If I given in the same property in the all the environment files, what's happening? If I given in the only environment and not given in the common, what will happen? If I give like that, you have to do all these experiments. It's a very simple. So same configuration data tomorrow you will get in the microservices also, guys. So that's why I'm giving this all these use cases. So because tomorrow when you started next week or maybe next week onwards when we started microservices, we will have a concept called as config data, config server, config clients. There also we will have same profiles only. So there also these rules will be applicable. When you given same property in two different profiles, what will happen like that? Same kind of concept you will get in the microservices level. So that's why just practice today itself so that it will become easy for you when you get same kind of concept in the microservices. Okay. So with this, we are done with profiles. Very simple. It's only to deal with this environment specific point of view. So I said, right, 90% people will deal with only properties wise, configuration data wise, but very rare case people will deal with what this bean objects, very rare case. So very rare case we will deal with specific to environment bean objects got getting created. No, generic generally 95% people will make 99% generic logic, Java logic, generic to all environments, but we will make the manipulation everything via configuration values point of view. That is how people will do that.